Hi everyone. If you're new to gluten-free baking or you've been around the gluten-free baking world for a while, you might find this video encouragement either way. Quite often when we are told we have to be gluten-free or choose to go gluten-free, it's a completely whole new world to learn, because it is. You go from one way of eating to another way of eating, and because food is literally a survival mechanism, our connection with food is very important, very vital, and it's actually important to put time into it. So I'm going to talk about different gluten-free cookbooks that you might already have. Let me reword that. I say gluten-free so much. You might have a whole bunch of regular gluten cookbooks sitting around and you feel like you might need to throw them away. Before you do that, I want to share with you that there's a lot of naturally gluten-free recipes in those cookbooks. A lot of more like the meat-heavy main dishes or the side dishes, the salads, the soups, and then there's certain cuisines that are naturally gluten-free. So I took some of my own cookbooks from my shelf, and then I went to the library as well to be able to do this. And we're going to start off with Betty Crocker. Betty Crocker has been around a really long time, and I don't have really any plans for this video other than to just go through them and talk about what there is. I'm talking about appetizers here, like guacamole. It's gluten-free. Lemon thyme dip, spinach dip. Different beverages are naturally gluten-free. Of course, the breads and the cakes, we're going to mainly skip over those. More like the desserts and the breads are the ones that are going to not be gluten-free. Garlic bread, you can actually take regular gluten-free bread and make the garlic butter to go on a bread. It's really, really good. I've done that. Graham cracker crust. So for this one, you can actually get Pamela's graham crackers and break them all up and follow the rest of the recipe here for an easy gluten-free pie crust recipe. We have cake and baked desserts. Apple crisp is really, really easy to make gluten-free. So in the crumble topping that you put on there, you can just use Bob Bread Mills gluten-free flour in the bread bag, and you can use that in place of it, and it turns out so good. Okay, now we're into the main dishes. A lot of the cheese dishes can be easily gluten-free. This one, this cheese strata, you can use gluten-free bread instead. For this one, I don't see any flour. Salsa. Quiche is easy to make gluten-free. You can actually make it crustless and not even worry about a crust. Grains and legumes, these are also naturally going to be gluten-free. Fried rice, savory and curate. Ground beef, like the breadcrumbs you put into meatballs, you can use gluten-free bread that you dry up. Enchiladas, you would just use gluten-free wraps. And any like meat roast will naturally be gluten-free, and that gives you a lot to use and eat. Pasta, you can always get gluten-free shells and then use the rest of the filling that's gluten-free and stuff it with that. Curried vegetables with ziti. Ooh, that one sounds good. I would just use gluten-free ziti. Noodles, spicy peanut chicken. That would be gluten-free. It uses cornstarch instead. You could use, if you can't do soy sauce, you can do coconut aminos. A lot of dressings are naturally gluten-free too. A lot of salads. I love spices. Lemon curd, stews, soups, and sandwiches. Split pea soup. Chili. I love a good chili. So there is so many gluten-free options in that one. And then we have this one. This is Soups, Stews, and Chilies by Cuisine at Home. Even after I had to be gluten-free, I would still get Cuisine at Home and Taste at Home magazines because I still wanted the inspiration, and I was learning how to convert things over. So a lot of soups, stews, and chilies are naturally gluten-free. They're really, really good. Great ideas. I've been gluten-free almost 20 years now, and the gluten-free industry has made lots of progress over the years. It used to just be all cardboard, and if you want anything good, you had to learn how to make it yourself. So that's where I come from. Plus, I've been baking cooking since I was 13. Okay, Taste of Home. You might be familiar with this. Okay, so a lot of the cakes and pies you might not necessarily be able to do, but the cranberry pecan pie, the filling is gluten-free, but you would just need to use a gluten-free pie crust. Main dishes, herbs shepherd's pie. A shepherd's pie, calls for 2 tablespoons all-purpose flour. You could just use gluten-free all-purpose flour. That's an easy substitute. Here we're not necessarily really concerned about the gluten aspect, it's more about the thickening aspect of it. So you don't have to get too finicky about flours acting like gluten flours at all. Quesadillas, you can just use gluten-free. Wraps, that's easy change out. Turkey spaghetti pie, roasts using the crock pot, and then salads are naturally gluten-free. Just because you're gluten-free doesn't necessarily mean that you're interested in being healthy. That is something I've discovered over the years. Carrot zucchini fritters, I actually have zucchini fritters listed in my own recipe on my YouTube channel here. Cheese balls are gluten-free. Instead of Worcestershire sauce, you can use coconut aminos. And let's see what else we got here. Omelets, pork chops, potatoes, applesauce. These are probably all gluten-free here. Desserts, cheesecakes. So with cheesecakes, it's just usually the crust that you need to make gluten-free. Cakes and pies. If you're looking for a really good gluten-free pie crust recipe, Nicole Hahn with Gluten-Free and a Shoestring has an incredible pie crust recipe. I'll have to make it someday here on the channel. So a lot of options that are already naturally gluten-free. Country Cookbook, this is a really old one. A lot of the vegetable recipes are. I've made gluten-free mac and cheese. It's been very, very good. I've done chicken and dumplings. I just used gluten-free dumpling mix instead of the topping, and it turned out really good. I just put it on top of the rest of the recipe. A lot of these savory sausage rice. So rice recipes tend to be gluten-free. Sweet and sour sauce. A lot of amazing options. A lot of your like fruit desserts tend to be gluten-free. A lot of chocolate desserts can be gluten-free. Like this recipe right here, there's not a single gluten thing in it. It's all gluten-free. Relishes, ketchups, potato recipes. There's like this sweet rice recipe in here. I don't know where it is, but it's really, really good. And then there's some pie recipes in here I absolutely love. Oh, there's popcorn stuff talked about again here, and milkshakes, and so these are all really, really good options. But the one pie recipe I like to use is their purple plum pie, because I don't like things that are too sweet. I like things that are more like tart sweet. And I use that pie crust recipe I was just telling you about. And then for the crumb topping for the pie, I just use the Bob's gluten-free mix. Okay, there's certain cuisines that are naturally gluten-free. I mean, a lot of gluten-free options, and that is Asian, that is Indian. There's also Mexican and Mediterranean. The majority of their foods are naturally gluten-free. And we have this cookbook. This one was a heavy cookbook to carry back from the library. All right, here. So they're talking about scrambled eggs, great gluten-free all egg dishes. A lot of those naturally are gluten-free. Fried eggs, sandwiches, tacos, and burritos. Those are easy to make gluten-free. You would just use gluten-free bread in place of the sandwich bread. You can use gluten-free wraps. I actually use gluten-free corn tortilla wraps from Dollar Tree quite often. They have like 8 million chemicals in them, but they are gluten-free. They're corn. Tacos, burritos, those are all easy to convert to gluten-free. Salads, that's a given. Stocks and soups. So many soups are naturally gluten-free. Cheese balls. Some of these things I've never heard of. And let's go the other direction. We're talking about meat, grilling, pork, beef, stir fries. Oh, so many stir fries are naturally gluten-free. And just use it with rice. Beef stroganoff. Where'd that go? Oh, I lost it. Beef stroganoff is easy to make gluten-free. You just use gluten-free noodles instead. Poultry, chicken, grilling meats. Different sauces. Sometimes putting your own spice mixtures together is a great way to ensure that they're all gluten-free and there's nothing added to them. Butter loaf, pie crust. We'll skip these. And cakes and cupcakes. It's basically the breads and the baked goods that you need to skip in a cookbook. Unless you know how to convert things, then you go to them, look at them for ideas. Jams and jellies and preserves and different types of vegetables. Pressure cooking. Oh, this is a very thorough cookbook. It has a lot in it. That's why it's as thick as a textbook. Knowing your ingredients. Working with lemons. Making your own bacon. Know your ingredients. I agree with that. Know your ingredients. No. A huge part about being gluten-free is educating yourself. And so, because we've been taught and conditioned a certain way for so long, the thought of completely redoing a whole new way of eating is a task. And as you get used to it, it gets easier and easier, but it is a completely new way of life. Because food is what keeps us alive. We have this huge connection with it. It's a source of pleasure and connection, and it fuels your body and is important. It's a necessity in life in so many different ways. And I had a client years ago who came to me for massage, and I asked them how they were doing. They were devastated. They had been told they had to be gluten-free. The doctor was not helpful at all in telling them what was gluten and what was not gluten. And so they left there feeling like they couldn't eat anything, which is devastating. To be told you can't eat anything, because then you're like, well, how am I going to live? But I said to him, well, thankfully I am gluten-free myself, so I can give you lots of ideas and tips. They left the session feeling so much better because, one, they got a massage, but two, I was able to help them figure out what they could and could not eat. So those are some regular gluten cookbooks. And I'm going to do a whole video of all the gluten-free cookbooks and websites that I use at some point. But I just wanted to share one more cookbook with you. When I was at the library, I came across this cookbook and I was absolutely fascinated. Look at it. Can you see it? Like the texture on this cover, like it feels amazing, and it's so well made. This cookbook is quite interesting because the author is actually not gluten-free. The author is an Italian chef who has become fascinated with the gluten-free cuisine, and he set out on a mission to write this cookbook all about the already naturally gluten-free dishes out there and all the different cuisines around the world. Not recipes that had to be converted to gluten-free, recipes that already originally were gluten-free, which I thought was fascinating. And we have 2 bookmarks here. You can tell it's a good cookbook when you get the bookmarks. So different things that already are gluten-free, like hash browns and latkes and fritters. There's the fritters again. And so it has it divided up into different sections. Tostadas, summer rolls. Summer rolls are so yummy. Spring rolls. I've always wondered how to do spring rolls myself, so I'm gonna definitely have to try this. Rice stuffed zucchini, rice cakes, falafel. I love falafel, absolutely love it. And you can make falafel 2 ways, one with flour and one without flour. And then there's hummus, and there's soups, and cornbread is gluten-free, rice and beans, crepes, fajitas, because you're just basically cooking up the meat and the veggies and putting them in a gluten-free wrap. Chicken sesame soba noodles, which are made from buckwheat. Spring pad thai. Different types of chicken recipes. Biryani. I absolutely love biryani. And there's a recipe in here for roti, which I've always thought was only made with wheat flour. And but in a different Indian cultures within the country, there's also corn roti and sorghum flour roti, which I was excited about. Meat and poultry. I was absolutely fascinated with this book. Kebabs, more kebabs, stews. There is one recipe in here, the almond brittle, rice bites, halva bars. If you've never had halva bars, they're really good, yummy. But there is one recipe in here, macarons and macaroons. This recipe I thought was fascinating. It's made from coarse almond ground, but it's meant to be like this. These cinnamon cookies sound so good. And then flourless cake, but this one sounded really interesting. You use pandan leaves and steamed layer cake. Definitely want to try that. And rice flour, tapioca flour, ricotta cake, puddings. So there's so many ideas out there. And when it comes to be gluten-free, it's the naturally occurring protein that is in the grain of the different types of grains. It's not in the stalk or the grass of that particular grain, but it's in the grain head. So there is wheat grain, and anything that comes from the wheat grain, which is wheat flour and white flour. There is rye, spelt. Spelt is a cousin to wheat. There is kamut, and there is barley. And sometimes I get barley and buckwheat confused in my mind momentarily, but I have to remind myself it's the B with the wheat that I can have, buckwheat, and then it's the B on its own, barley, that I cannot have. So you can have tons of rice dishes. You can have all these different cuisines that have a lot of naturally occurring gluten-free items in them. And so there's a lot of options, and I want you to be hugely encouraged and know that just because you have to be gluten-free doesn't mean it needs to define you and make you, for you to lead your life with being, oh, I'm gluten-free. No, you are who you are, whoever your name is, that is who you are, and your body happens to need to be gluten-free. So I wouldn't necessarily lead with this new identity. I would remember that you're still who you are, but your body needs to be fed a certain way at this time. And other things that can inflame the body as well are dairy and sugar. So quite often they go hand in hand with the gluten. And a whole nother topic is that adult onset allergies, food allergies like gluten and dairy and sugar and all these different allergies that tend to show up in adults. Usually, sometimes allergies in children go away as your immune system is able to handle it. But once it comes later in life, it usually has to do with your liver being congested. But if you do anything for your liver, you have to know that it's not anything to be taken lightly. You can do gentle supports for your liver, but any liver cleansing, you really need to be working with somebody who knows how to lead you through a liver cleanse if you've never done them before, because throwing off liver toxins is not for the faint of heart. You really need to know what you're doing. You really need to have your colon wide open and ready. And that's a whole nother subject. So hopefully this is helpful to you.